No one was supposed to touch her, but he was the only one who moved. The hall of the Veyra was not built for human eyes. Specialist Kais Halt had spent 3 years working alongside alien delegations, and still nothing prepared him for the Veyra throne room. Columns of black stone rose 50 feet high, wrapped in spiraling teal light that pulsed like a heartbeat. The floor was a dark mirror, and beneath it, luminous tiles mapped the constellations of a star system no human had ever visited. Along every wall, rows of Veyra nobles stood in silence, their elongated bodies draped in ceremonial armor. Their faces were smooth, expressionless, and impossibly still. Kais had been brought here to negotiate, not to kneel on the floor holding a dying alien princess. Yet here he was. It had happened fast. He had been escorted into the hall when he heard the sound. Not a scream, but something worse. A silence that broke. The great doors had burst open before the ceremony began, and Princess Liara, heir to the Veyra throne, had collapsed at the center of the hall. The nobles froze. Not from shock, Kais realized. From protocol. Not one of them moved to help her. He moved without thinking. He crossed the floor in long strides, dropped to his knees, and gathered her before anyone could react. Up close, she was stunning. Her skin was like polished moonstone, faintly blue and traced with glowing lines that flickered like a candle about to go out. Her dark hair fanned out beneath her, damp with something cold. Her dress, white and gold, sheer as a cloud, had begun to dim at the edges, as if the light that kept it bright was failing with her. What's happening to her? Kais demanded, looking up at the nearest Veyra noble. The noble, tall, armored, and expressionless, stared at him the way you stare at something that has broken a law you never thought needed stating. "Do not touch her," it said at last. "You are a lesser being." Kais ignored him. He pressed 2 fingers to Liara's throat the way his field medic training had taught him, feeling for a pulse. What he found was not what he expected. There was no single beat. Instead, there were 3 distinct rhythms overlapping, each one stuttering. He recognized the pattern from a briefing document he had read once, almost as an afterthought. The Veyra had 3 hearts, and all 3 of hers were failing. "She's going into cascade arrest," he said, half to himself. From somewhere behind him, a sharp hiss filled the air. The Veyra Emperor, Liara's father, had risen from his throne. His voice, when it came, shook the floor. "Human, release my daughter. You defile her by your proximity." Kais did not release her. Instead, he placed one palm flat over the center of her sternum, just as he had been trained to do for cardiac emergencies in the field. The second his skin made contact with hers, something happened that he did not understand and would spend years trying to explain. She shivered, not from cold, not from pain. The shiver moved through her like a wave through still water. Slow, deliberate, gentle. Where it passed, her bioluminescent markings brightened. The flickering lines steadied. The dimness at the edges of her dress reversed. Color flooded back into her cheeks, her lips, and the tips of her fingers. The hall went completely silent. Kais pressed harder, both hands now keeping steady pressure, keeping his own breathing even. His heartbeat was loud in his ears. Her 3 hearts beneath his palms were synchronizing. "What is he doing to her?" a noble whispered. Nobody answered. Nobody had an answer. The emperor descended from the throne. His footsteps rang out across the mirror floor, each one deliberate and immeasurable in weight. He stopped 3 feet behind Kais and stared down at the spectacle of a human kneeling over his daughter with both hands pressed to her chest. "Remove him," the emperor said quietly. "Wait." A voice, soft, strained, and deeply musical, cut through the silence. Liara opened her eyes. They were the color of deep ocean water, luminous and ringed with silver. She looked up at Kais first. Not at the emperor. Not at the hall full of nobles. Not at the ceiling carved with the history of her civilization. At him. At this stranger with dark hair, a navy jacket, and an expression of focused, stubborn, completely unreasonable calm. "Don't stop," she said. Kais didn't. For another 40 seconds, neither of them moved. Then, gradually, Liara's 3 hearts reached a rhythm that held. Her breathing deepened and steadied. The glow returned fully, stronger than before. Her was shining now like bioluminescent sea creatures lit from within. She was extraordinary. She was alive. Kais sat back and exhaled for what felt like the first time in minutes. Liara sat up slowly, the nobles surging forward now and surrounding her. But she held up one slender hand, and they stopped. She turned to face her father. "He saved me," she said simply. The emperor's expression did not change, but his eyes moved just once, to Kais. There was something in that gaze that was not gratitude. Not quite. It was older than gratitude. It was the look of a being recalculating everything it believed to be true. "Why?" the emperor asked at last. "You risked yourself for a being not of your kind. For no advantage? For no treaty? Why?" Kais looked at him. "Because she was dying and I was standing right there. That's the only reason anyone needs." The hall was quiet for a long time. Then, from somewhere in the rows of armored nobles, someone knelt. Then another. Then another. A slow cascade, like dominoes falling in reverence, until the entire hall was down on one knee, facing the human specialist still sitting on the floor in his navy jacket. The emperor himself did not kneel, but he descended the final step, placed one hand over his own chest, all 3 hearts pressing together, and inclined his head. "The treaty will be signed," he said, "and the Veyra will remember this day." Liara caught Kais's gaze from across the space between them. She smiled, barely, like she was still learning how. The glow of her markings brightened one final time, like a star deciding to stay. Kais let out a slow breath. He had come to negotiate peace between worlds. He had not expected to find it by simply refusing to walk away. She smiled, barely, like starlight learning to stay. He exhaled. He had come to negotiate peace between worlds. He never expected to find it by simply